please give it up for your host of a special edition, The Midnight, Richard Alicea.
Is up. What is up, everybody? Welcome to The Midnight. I like that little jazzy tune there. Man, I'm so honored to be here today, to be hosting tonight, to be hosting The Midnight. Honestly, we have an amazing show planned for you today. Thank you for all those joining online. I saw Valerie on there, Valerie Alfaro. What's up, Valerie? Hope you're doing well. Shout out. So tonight we have a very special guest. We have our very own, he's a GCMS graduate from Generations Church Ministry School. Chris Yearyean is in the house today. Come on, let's give it up for Chris. We're going to dive into the topic of blended families. But I want you to mark your calendars because next week we have our very own assistant pastors from our San Diego location, Pastors Wahai and Laura Quisquis. Give it up for them. It is going to be awesome. They're going to be talking about parenting. They're going to be talking about their daughter, Alicea, who has autism, man. If you know Alicea, you know a hug from her cures everything. All right, so they're going to be talking about that and also just their testimonies and how God is using them. But also, you guys, some of those who are in the studio audience, you guys filled out that little token there. Next week, we have a giveaway. We're going to be giving away a pair of Apple AirPods. That's right, I said Apple. So if you have Android, they're not going to work, guys. So you're automatically disqualified. Maybe you could give it as a gift. You could give it as a gift to me. All right, no, I'm just kidding. So that is next week. So join us next week live for The Midnight with our very own Troy Shadid. So I don't know if you guys know, but President Biden had his first State of the Union speech. Yes, I'm going there. He had his first State of the Union address, and he actually introduced something called the Unity Agenda. I don't know if he collaborated with Queen Latifah. Come on, UNITY. Come on, all you Gen Z had no idea what that was. All you millennials, holla. All right. But yeah, he introduced this Unity Agenda, but you could tell it worked because every single Republican ignored everything he had to say. So that was working for him. Mardi Gras, I don't know if you guys know, Mardi Gras started yesterday. Anybody? Who's ever been to Mardi Gras? No one? All right, good. Yeah, because if not, we're going to have to pray for you. But yeah, Mardi Gras started yesterday. It is in New Orleans, Louisiana, not New Orleans, whoever says that. Yeah. All right, so it's New Orleans, all right? New Orleans, all right? So it's interesting, right? Because once the CDC starts to loosen the restrictions, we dive right in and just have Mardi Gras, right? That's like getting your driver's license and then signing up for the Indy 500. Come on. But check this out. There was a guy in New York who actually won $10 million with a scratcher, a lotto scratcher. $10 million. But check this out. It gets better. The same guy won another $10 million off a scratcher 3 years prior to that. Same guy. And this gets even crazier. There was the same guy standing behind the guy who won the $10 million twice, the same guy. And he was like, man, I was so close. Oh, my goodness. Is it just he's lucky or I'm unlucky? Oh, come on. So check this out. Honda, check this out. Honda is doing some investigating, some claims about some unexpected braking happening in 2 million of their vehicles, all right? So it's just automatically braking, the brakes. They're just kind of going crazy. So when Kia heard this, they're like, that's why we don't put brakes in our cars. Come on. But seriously, come on. There it is. Hey, there it is. There you go, Josh. Good one. But seriously, all those Honda cars, right? All those Honda cars are going to be like somebody taking the driving test. Come on, somebody. Who remembers that? Stop, start. So in some entertainment news, check this out. For all you Academy Award fans, that's me. I love the Academy Awards. I mean, I have a party for it. It's awesome. I love the Academy Awards. But check it out. The Academy Awards will not air all of the categories. They're actually going to tape some of them and then show it during the broadcast. And even more insulting, before the awards are presented, the announcers say the categories that nobody really cares about are next. All right, so that's kind of tough, right? Because there's people that work really hard on those movies, and I don't think that's cool. But you know what? It's happening. All right, so we have to deal with it. Okay, so I think my idea is if you want to shorten the broadcast, how about you cut out that segment where they talk about what an actor is? An actor acts. All right, so there you go. All right, so Pastor Troy actually did it last week. I want to introduce it again. I don't know if it's going to be a segment. Maybe it'll be a permanent segment. But it's something I like to call funny church signs. Come on, here we go. All right, so the first sign, let's put it up there. Ruben, what is it? What does it say? What does it say? The first church sign, put it up there for me. Do you have it? I hope so. I sent it to you. You don't have it. Uh-oh. He doesn't have the church signs. Hey, there it is. It says, what? It says CHCH. What's missing? You are. Come on. Get to church, people. Come on. Get there. Next one. We got 4 of them. God recycles. He made you from dust. Come on. That's a good one right there. That's good. That's a good one. At Trinity Baptist Church. Come on. Bible study at 9:30, just in case you're wondering. Next one. I'm in your way. Sorry, Mr. Sharon. I'll stand over here, get in somebody else's way. I think we have 4. Didn't we have 4, Ruben? No, we don't have no more. There was a good one there, man. I was about to preach on it. No? Nothing? All right, guys. So, again, we have an amazing show planned for you guys. All right, Chris is going to be coming up in a second. But take a look at the screen for this funny little commercial we have for you guys. Check it out.
Listen. Okay, what? Like everything they do at this house, you can't trust everything at Grandma's house. Okay. Okay, then what? Then you're not listening to me. Then you're not listening to me. I asked you not to do something. No, but listen to me. Look at, if you do something, if you get that bird thing off, you're gonna break it. Okay. But I'm letting you know that you cannot. Linda, lick it. You're not listening to me. Linda, listen to me now. Listen to me now. Listen to me. No, you're not listening. I said no cupcakes. And you try to get cupcakes and you try to ask Grandma. Linda, didn't you? Linda, lick it. If you do something right out this, if you get close, you can't even get them. You're gonna burn your butt. What's gonna burn your butt? You and Kevin don't listen, so I have to give both of you guys pop-pows in your butt. But Linda, Grandpa's gonna give you pop-pows in your butt. No, he's not. Yeah. I have to. You don't want me to hit Kevin, or you don't want me to spank you? No. Why? Because anybody wants to spank me. Then I have to spank Kevin. But he's my little pop-pops. He's your little pop-ups, but he doesn't listen. But Linda, honey, look at this. Right now, they can't do anything if we can't get everything out of the wall. If we're gonna break everything down.
Man, that little guy, he was feisty. He was feisty. He was like, "Hey, Linda, check it out, honey. I like that at the end." That was really good. So, again, guys, we're going to have an amazing guest. I'm going to welcome him up right now. He's a GCMS graduate from our Generations Church Ministry School. He's an awesome guy. He actually coached my daughter in softball last season. Let's give a very warm welcome for Chris Yearyean. Let's welcome up. All right, welcome, man. Have a seat. Let's do this.
Thank you.
Welcome to the midnight, my friend.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's awesome to have you here. We're going to be talking about blended families in a minute. Blended families, if I can say that right.
Tongue twister.
Blended families. We're actually going to be talking about that. But just kind of give the audience out there, whoever's watching online, just a little bit of introduction about yourself and obviously your family and kind of all the deets.
All right. So, I'm on. So I am a. It's funny how to say it this way, but I'm a divorced, remarried father of 2. So the whole blended family thing, I came into the marriage with a biological daughter, and my wife came in with a son. I think we have a picture if you guys want to put that up. So this is my family.
Nice. There they go.
All right. So this is my family. That's me and my wife, Lindsay, my daughter, Maddie, and my son, Ryder. So yeah, that's kind of it. We went through a couple of years of being a single parent, and you know what you kind of learn as a single parent is when you start dating, you for some reason end up dating other single parents, which creates this whole I don't know how to say it, but it just creates this whole situation where you're dealing with your kid, somebody else's kid, the parent to your kid, the other parent to your kid, and then the other parent to that kid. So it just creates this big circle. All right.
Playing mic roulette.
Musical
Here we go.
mics. I love it.
Here we go.
You know what? Anytime the technology is going haywire, the enemy is trying to do something because he's trying to stop something. So something that I learned early on, once you're in the situation, you don't realize how common being in a blended family or being raised by a step parent or being a step parent is. And it's something that almost, I feel like society has almost made taboo. We don't talk about it. And then once you start talking about it, you realize how many people are going through it. And I think there's freedom in talking about it. So I was doing a podcast for a while. Life got super busy and that had to go on the back burner. And I started it as a co-parenting, talking about kind of the struggles that you go through as a co-parent, which is you're raising a child with somebody who you're not in a relationship with any longer, whether that's an ex-spouse or one night stand or whatever it is. It happens. We live life and we all get out of line with God's plan and sometimes things happen. But I started that because, like I said, I started to learn how many people I was in contact with that were in this situation, but nobody talked about it. So I realized how much freedom there was for me in talking about it, but how much freedom I could bring to others in letting them share their story, but just sharing our stories with each other and learning and bouncing ideas off of each other and talking about our struggles. Because it's not an easy situation to be going through. It's not ideal. It's not God's perfect plan for our lives. But I think the cool thing about the God that we serve is that we serve a God of redemption. And we serve a God of second chances. And it always, anytime I talk about it, it reminds me of Romans 8:28, where God will use all things for the good of those who serve him. And there have been a lot of people that I've come into contact with once I started sharing the story, and we can delve deeper into some of the specifics, but just to give you a precursor of that, like at one point my ex-wife was actually attending church here. And that doesn't happen without the power of God.
Yeah, that's right.
That's good.
Really good. So what are some challenges? I mean, you kind of mentioned a little bit. You kind of started to dive in. What are some challenges that maybe people don't really know about? Obviously having a blended family, and maybe people don't even think about these challenges and stuff, or they don't see them on a day-to-day basis. They may know you're a blended family, but what are some challenges that you face?
One of the biggest challenges I think for us, and my wife could attest to it, when you're raising a child with somebody who, because we talk about blended families and immediately we think of in your home, like this blended family in your home, the picture here, right? That's what we think of. Yeah. But like I said, you've also got other biological parents, other half siblings on both sides. So in my family, my son has 2 half brothers, and my daughter has a half brother. We don't use the step vernacular in our house. My son's my son, my daughter's my daughter.
Absolutely.
My daughter's my wife's daughter. We've come to learn that my daughter has 4 parents.
Yeah.
So I dovetailed there. Yeah. But one of the biggest challenges is that you for us was discipline. My son is with us 100% of the time. He actually didn't even meet his biological father until he was almost 9. Or no, he was 9. And so as far as he knows, I'm dad. I've been around that long.
Yeah.
So for him, the discipline's completely different than it is for my daughter, who is with us half the time and with her mom half the time. So sometimes she'll come back to my house and it's everything we worked towards, or all of the discipline that we set forth, has gone out the window, because we just run our households differently. Not that my way is right, her way is wrong, or her way is right, my way is wrong. Our households are just run differently. And so I think that's been the biggest challenge for the 5 years that we've been married and 6 years that we've been together, is that the longer she's not at our house, the more undoing there is when she comes. And if she's only, like, this week she's with us for the weekend, but next week she'll only be with us Wednesday night and Thursday night. Wow. So you go through a week of trying to undo a week, but you've only got 2 nights, and you still want to enjoy your time with your kid. So there's a balance there of I think the discipline's been the hardest thing for us, but also recognizing that it's still our job as parents.
Absolutely. To
do that, to discipline and to keep the structure, even if we feel like we're being the bad guys sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. Honestly, yeah, I was just thinking about that while you were talking. It's almost like, when they go, with the mom or, whoever, maybe your situation and stuff, maybe those watching at home. It's almost like the child has like jet lag. Like it kind of takes like a few days to kind of get back into the routine of things. And then by that time, unfortunately, sometimes they're off back again. So I could see how even the child, that probably is a lot stuff on your child. Like, have you seen that a little bit and stuff in Maddie a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. Because, I mean, just like I said, households are run differently.
Yeah.
And when Maddie's at her mom's house now, they live with her parents. So she's got grandma who spoils her. Lets her get away with anything, and then she's got mom that kind of lets her get away with anything, and then she comes back here, and things are just different. Yeah. And like I said, not that it's right or wrong or indifferent, it's just that things are different there than they are at my house. So yeah, jet lag I think is like a really, really good term for it. I'm actually probably going to start using that.
Come on.
I like that. But yeah, it is.
For free. You have it for free. It's fine.
But it also creates this struggle where now Ryder sees treatment that Maddie gets elsewhere. Or, like I said, we do things differently in our household than they do there. And Maddie may come and be like, oh, I got this gift. And we don't do that. We do more experiences. We just spent this past weekend in Cathedral City at a softball tournament creating these experiences. And that's how we kind of choose to use our resources, where it may be different at Maddie's mom's. And that's just how they do it there. But, kid sees, oh, she just got that. Man, I wish I had that.
Yeah.
And so it creates this whole other dynamic where, well, hey, I'm sorry that we don't buy all kinds of stuff, but look what we just did.
Yeah.
Look what we just spent the whole weekend doing. So that's another challenge too, is you're dealing with children who, like, how come they get to do that over there? How come they get to stay up later over there, but I got to go to bed? That's not fair. We're the same age. Because my kids are 3 months apart, which is, when we first started dating was funny, because you tell people, oh, how old are they? Well, they're I think at the time they were 5. They're 5. Oh, how far apart? 3 months. And you see people's faces, and they're like, try to do the math, and they're like, they don't want to ask, like, wow, this dude is, what's wrong with this guy? So then people would, when they found out they were the same age, you'd be like, oh, are they twins? And so my daughter got so tired of listening to the explanation.
Poor Lindsay.
Yeah, she would just, yes, we're twins, and then walk away. Like, the innocence of children. But, yeah, it does. It just creates a lot of different challenges. And you just kind of have to, I think one of the big lessons that we learned is honesty and communication in that.
Yeah.
Where if I'm handling something, in a way that Lindsay wouldn't have handled it, or we see something being handled at the other house, it's just we've got to be able to have the open and honest dialogue, which I think is important no matter what the situation is.
And that's dialogue between parents, both parents. Is that what you're talking about?
Both dialogue between both parents.
Yeah.
Both parents in the house, but
and then also
it's really important to be able to have that. Like I said, we're at the point now where we're all at Maddie's softball games and school functions and birthday parties. We all hang out together. That's not everybody's situation, and I'm not saying that I'm better or that's God. That 100% my situation wouldn't be that if it wasn't for God.
Yeah.
And that's part of my testimony and through GCMS and the things that we learned there. I guested on somebody else's podcast once, and Richard's back there in the back. Check out 100% Richard.
100% Richard.
But he kind of asked me, how you get to that point where you're able to, because it's hard. Forgiveness is not easy. When you're dealing with an ex-spouse, it's not always easy.
Yeah.
And sometimes that hurt and that pain can surface, even if I think forgiveness is like a everyday. Yeah. You've got to choose to forgive constantly.
Absolutely.
And so sometimes that'll boil up to the surface. But he asked me that, how do you get to that point? I said, in all honesty, as cliche and as dumb as it sounds, and it almost sounds like a cop-out, but prayer. Yeah. Like 100%, my situation didn't change until I stopped praying for myself and started praying for Maddie's mom.
It's good. Really good.
So,
really good.
and that's all, the same kind of thing with Ryder's biological dad. It wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for prayer. It wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the lessons that I learned going through GCMS. Because when that whole situation started up, we were approached and he said, I want to meet him. And I was like, nope, not going to happen. Tough. That's my son.
Yeah.
And I got convicted real quick. And there's a whole lot there, but one thing that really popped out of my mind was something that we read in a book by Craig Rochelle, that he said, we've been shown mercy, and it's our responsibility now as believers to give that mercy out. Yeah, and I was like, God, no. I wrestled. It was hard. It took me a little while to get to that point, but again, as cliche as it sounds, prayer changes things.
No, it's powerful. Prayer does change things, and that's awesome, man. I'm glad you were able to get to that point and kind of give those practical steps, like you said. They're very simple, but they're very powerful as well, and they do work. And like I said, I'm sure that was a process, but we'll get to that in our next segment. All right, guys. So we have a new series starting here at Generations Church. So take a look at the screen for our next series coming up. All right, we are back. That is the next series coming up here at Generations Church. All right, so I'm excited. I don't drink milk, but I drink almond milk. Sorry, guys. All right, so
it's good for your bones, Rich.
It's bones. I mean, my bones are pretty solid. But anyway,
you want to grow up and be a big kid?
Yeah, man. So anyway, it's the news time with Josh Smith. Come on, let's give it up for him.
Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to the Midnight News. First things first, we have GC groups. Yeah, so shout out to you guys that are hosting GC groups at your house. You know, my wife, Stephanie, out there in the crowd right now. I know she's hosting girls' night when I come out my room at like 8 p.m. and there's 14 pairs of shoes. And I just hear, ah! Oh my God. Ah! I'm like, oh my gosh, they're going through, an emotional turbulence. Well, at the end of the day, they all love each other, is happy, and it's the best time ever. So we have groups for adults, for teenagers, male, female, game nights, hiking groups. Everything's out there. Get in where you fit in. And also, as I prepare myself, hola, mi amor. Ooh, mi heart swells for you. This weekend, we have a GC Espanol EXO Marriage Conference at Iglesia de Generaciones. Yeah, so if you guys went to the English one this past weekend, it was an amazing experience. Everybody had a fun time together, laughed. grown. And this weekend, for those a part of the Spanish service, whether you're here live or watching online, make sure you come out to that. And also, next week on The Mid, it's time for Family Feud. Yes. So it's going to be a fun game time. You know, we're going to have two families battling head to head. It's going down. It's brutal, y'all. It's going to be so much fun up in here, up in here. Yes, I'm excited for that. I'll be hosting Steve Harvey style. And I might give me a little bald cap, give me a built-in mustache.
Yeah, that's
right.
right.
You feel me? I might break it all
that's
down.
Right.
Give me
That's
a little
right.
three-piece suit with a vest and everything. You know, that boy Steve Harvey be fresh with it.
Come on, man.
Hey, Rich, you gonna do it?
We got to dust that off. I know.
I'm gonna pull it off. All right, and then I gotta do every single week. I like to fill you guys in on something you can watch on Netflix while you at home, Netflix, and hopefully not sleeping. So this time, for all my sports fans out there or documentary kind of fans out there, I love this series called Last Chance U. Yes.
That's good.
Hey, you seen that? Oh, okay. So that's where all these people, you know, they're trying to pursue their goals, whether it's in basketball, football. Stephanie watches one about cheerleaders. I don't even know where that came from. Where they try to pursue their collegiate goals and their future goals. And basically, it's about behind the scenes, all the drama, all the breakdown, the realness of college sports where, you know, those coaches say every single word that you think about telling to your kids, but when you send them off to sports, they break it down. I'm talking about every boop, beep, bop, boop, beep. They sound like robots. There's so much cursing everywhere. But I promise you, it's amazing. You do not want to miss on that. And then last but not least, oh my gosh, hopefully everybody knows what yesterday was. I got my pancake socks with me, y'all. Yesterday was International Pancake Day. I'm talking about, yes, Lord. See, I came home last night. I had a gig, right? I came home at like 11 p.m. and Stephanie had a IHOP platter laid out for your boy. And I wanted to cry. And I never been so happy in my life. I sat there, ate 3 pancakes, some bacon, some eggs, 4 packets of maple syrup, and I cried myself to sleep full of joy. So next year, if you guys do not know, make sure you mark on your calendars International Pancake Day. And that's all the news I have this week. I'll send it back to our guest host, Rich.
That is Josh. That is Josh with the news. Josh, I don't know, man. With all that sugar, man, you might have to check and see. You might have type 2 diabetes, so you gotta be careful, man, with that stuff.
Man.
So I'm just saying. And then also, he mentioned during the marriage conference, people were. Did you say groaning? People
Growing.
Oh, all right.
There was
I just wanted to make sure.
I saw a lot of shoulder taps. Like,
corrections and retractions. I just wanted to be sure, man, that we're on the same page. As far as that's concerned. So back here with Chris Yearyean, talking about blended families. So yeah. I know it took prayer and stuff. You know, you did mention that. But what, like, maybe some practical things other than prayer? Like, did you have, you know, like conversations and stuff like that? Like how to kind of navigate this thing? Because like you said, you kind of bouncing back and forth. What's best, obviously, you know, for your children? So
for me, one of the most practical things I can tell anybody is find yourself a good spouse. Because if it wasn't for my wife and the way that she pushed me to get out of the way, stop worrying about what I felt and what I thought, and think about what my daughter was going through, because my wife is the product of that. She grew up with, you know, I was thinking about it earlier, the term broken home, and how we're not using the term broken home. My kids aren't from 2 broken homes. My kids are in a blended family.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking about how using that term blended family, it's more of a positive thing than a broken home.
Definitely.
That's a whole different.
I like it. Yeah.
There's something else there. But with her being the product of that environment, and with her parents not being able to be around each other, and it being a tense situation where if she was having, I think there was a time she had like a knee surgery because of playing softball, and it was either mom or dad there. It couldn't be both of them there for her, and that was powerful to me. So practically, get out of the way. Stop thinking about, don't be selfish. Yeah. Stop thinking about your own feelings and trying to, I'll never forget, you know, talking to people and they're like, oh, you're going through a divorce, you're going through a custody battle, you need to win that. And I'm like, win? What's winning here? Yeah, there is no, like, my daughter is now going to have to spend time in 2 homes. There's no winning until we figure out how to make it a win.
Wow, that's good. Really?
But you've got to get out of the way. I think the most important thing is that we're adults and we kind of understand life. Kids don't. And we've got to start, I mean, and this is for everybody. You've got to put your kids before yourself.
Yeah.
And think about how they're feeling and what they're going through. Yeah. And realize that sometimes when they're acting out, it's not acting out, it's they don't know how to process things.
Yeah.
You know, I grew up, my parents were together my whole life and then split up I was 18. Wow. So it hits you differently. Yeah. I knew how to handle it, yeah. But my daughter was 2. So I think that's probably the biggest practical thing is just don't be selfish in it. And if you're going through that situation, I would say don't look at a custody battle as something to win or lose.
That's good.
Look at it as what's the best possible outcome. Oh, I just sounded like Sean Kilty.
Come on.
What's the best possible outcome for my child in this situation? And in all honesty, for my situation, if it wasn't for Sean Kilty, things would still be a lot different.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's yeah, kind of having that understanding that it's kind of not about you anymore. Obviously, children are blessings, but they're also a responsibility, right? That we've been given the opportunity to raise these children, right? Because they are God's and stuff. The Word said so. Everyone is God. So for me, so kind of going along from what I'm hearing is that because we learned and stuff of those out the XO marriage conference, like that the first family is actually you and your wife. So just kind of speak about that a little bit. Maybe dive a little bit more into and stuff what you two have done and stuff together to be that example, because that's really where it starts, and then it kind of obviously your children see that and stuff, kind of that bond and stuff you guys have, or what you've built, or kind of what you guys have been through together.
Yeah. So one of the things with me and my wife is that we've known each other for 20 years. We were friends long before there was anything romantic. Yeah. So I think that's a good foundation is friendship, but in working together, and like I said, communication is such a big deal. Yeah. Kids need to see that it's okay to express that something upset you, or something bothers you, or something hurt you, or you don't necessarily agree on everything. It's important for kids to experience that, but experience it in a healthy way, where then there's a conversation, or you work through something and realize, okay, well, I see what you're saying here. I understand now your perspective on that, and that's really probably the biggest thing is trying to see each other's perspective, and putting same thing, getting out of the way. Yeah. I think loving somebody, you make the choice to die to yourself constantly, yeah. And whether it's your spouse, your kids, your friends, that's part of making the choice to love somebody. And so I think that's one thing for my kids is just seeing us, not necessarily with problems, but just work through life, yeah. and communicate through those things. And then, make time to spend together, yeah. And tell them, okay, mom and dad are going out. Yeah, that's something that I struggle with, because I'm a go type person. Yep. Where I'll bite off way more than I should, and then the first person that ends up getting neglected is my wife. So I'm learning how to get through that and make it obvious to my kids, okay, tonight we're going out. Yeah. And so that's something too, is just make sure that they see that there is a relationship there, and understanding that between the parents. Yeah.
I mean, I share just share a little bit. I don't know if you said it was maybe just gonna happen a little bit more organically, but it was a good. I don't know if you have it ready, man. But like just kind of going back to kind of Jesus. Let's kind of tie in Jesus into this story, I guess, of this blended family. That's technically what we got.
Yeah. So that's something that something that has always resonated with me, and we love our children, right? when you have a child that's yours biologically, there's just something there naturally that it's just, you don't make a decision to love that child. You love that child. When you take on, I don't like to say it this way, but when you take on somebody else's child, you're now making a decision to love that child.
That's good, yeah.
And that's where the family starts to blend, is that now, you know, they're both my kids. They're both Lindsay's kids, and it takes I don't want to say it takes a big person, but it takes a lot to make the decision to love a child that's not yours biologically.
Yeah.
Ryder's mine. He's my son.
Yeah.
But I didn't have a part in creating him.
Yeah.
And that always hits me with Joseph and Jesus.
Yeah.
Because Joseph chose, you know, our creator, or our savior.
Yeah.
Our savior was raised by a stepdad.
Yeah. Come on.
Essentially.
Say it.
And he was raised in a blended family where, yes, biologically Mary birthed him, so he had all these half siblings that were Joseph and Mary's siblings. You know, so I think, again, it's a thing where it's so taboo almost to talk about. Yeah. But then you look at, if it was good enough for our Savior to be raised in a blended family, then maybe it's not that bad of a thing. Yeah. Because, you know, God's you know, God's purpose for the family is one thing, and his plan for the family is one thing, but like I said, we serve a God of second chances, and some people aren't ready to be parents. And so there's somebody else that's ready to step into that role. And, you know, like I said, I think if it was good enough for the Savior of the world, I don't think it's a bad thing.
Definitely. Yeah, kind of going along. It's good. It's good work. Absolutely. I was just thinking about that word, kind of blended. Like, you can't really tell it's just one. You know what I mean? Like, I just love how you just kind of intersect everything, and you just can't tell. Oh, who's that? Is that your child? You know, no. It's just those are my kids, and that's that and stuff as far as that. But yeah, kind of going into a little bit about, like, you know, you kind of mentioned and stuff. You know, God's design, right? You know, his design is marriage, and you know, his design for marriage, you know, is to, you know, have sex with your wife only and stuff, and you know, all that stuff. But you know, you kind of spoke about how if that doesn't happen that way, right? Kind of what happens. There's some people that kind of feel that actually, and unfortunately, they've been told, like, well, you know, you did it the wrong way, so this is what's going to come to you because of that, and you never, you know, all these kind of negative things and stuff that get piled upon them and stuff like that. But just kind of speak to that a little bit.
Yeah. So it kind of fit in too with the relationship series. Something that really came into that just hit me. So I grew up in church, and one thing that I was taught, like my youth pastors taught, is that sex is like, it's procreation, but it's also for recreation. Like, it's supposed to be fun in the confines of the marriage.
Of the marriage, that's
right. But when we forget about the design of that, the original design, God's plan for that, that's when we run into now, you know, having children out of wedlock. I mean, my daughter, my ex-wife, was pregnant before we got married. You know, there's no condemnation for that now. Yeah. You know, and if you're in that situation, there's no condemnation on that. Like I said, we serve a God of redemption. But that's what happens when we step out of alignment with God's perfect plan. There's going to be consequences. Raising kids the way that I'm raising kids was not God's original plan for it. Now, it can be used in that, like I said, going back to Romans, everything can be used for good. Yeah. So there's redemption in that, but you know, that's kind of, I don't want to make it a cautionary tale, but that's when we've got to not step out of alignment with God's perfect plan. Yeah. And that's, I mean, the biggest thing I'll never forget, one of the first times we sat down with Pastor Troy and Jen for counseling, because we, you know, we're still a young married couple trying to figure out how to deal with all these issues where, you know, because it creates a separation. Sometimes at the beginning, if you don't know how to handle it, you feel like two families living under one roof.
Yeah.
And so you've got to get past that point and realize how to be a blended family. Yeah. And one of the first times that we sat down with them, Pastor Troy just plainly said it, well, this is what happens when, you don't do things God's way. You're going to run into a little bit more struggle. You're gonna create some issues that you shouldn't be having to deal with, but now you do. And like I said, there's no condemnation on that. Yeah. You're not wrong for having done it. We all mess up. We all step out of alignment in some way, one way or another, at times. And God's there to use that and help. There are people that I've been able to come in contact with or talk to that had I not gone through what I've gone through, I wouldn't be able to minister to them. Yeah. I wouldn't be able to speak into their life and be like, look, this is what I've gone through. And I don't know how many times we've recounted the story of us meeting Ryder's biological dad and people going, I don't know how you could do that. Yeah. It's because it wasn't under my power.
Yeah.
But if I hadn't gone through that and if I hadn't lived that, I wouldn't be able to speak into that person.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, I just love that story, man, because it is a tough situation to be in, like you said, because you've known him, since he was a baby. That's all he knows is you. But yeah, it definitely takes a man of prayer, a man who believes God is one who redeems and stuff in order to kind of step into that and just kind of understand and know who you are, really, because I think that's what it is. You have nothing's going to stop you or that's going to kind of ding, I guess, who you are, because you know who you are and you're like, that's not going to matter and stuff. It's good for Ryder. You obviously putting your son first because you're saying it's good for Ryder, to meet his biological dad and stuff. So that's just, I'm good at, is there anything else if just like one thing or just, maybe kind of, revisit something you've already kind of said, but just kind of really maybe emphasize it. But if there's one thing you want people to kind of come away with this talk and kind of, what we've been, speaking about as far as like blended family. So what is that? What is that thing?
I think the biggest thing is, and this is something that kind of hit me earlier, we talk all the time about being meant to do life in community. And that's been my driving force when I had started my podcast and when I had started to really try and reach out to people that I didn't realize were in a blended family or grew up in a blended family. One of the driving forces was that created a community. And I didn't feel like I was alone in going through something. And then I started to realize there were people that we could turn to and talk to and just bounce ideas or feelings off of. Early on, I struggled with certain parts of parenting children differently and having to, so you can find people, community to bounce that off of. So I think that's the biggest thing is just realizing that if you're a single parent or, because when I started my podcast, I had totally just planned on it being about co-parenting. And then you quickly realize that it's a blended family thing. Like it's all related. And so if you're in that type of situation or somebody who is, one, make it okay to talk about, encourage it, ask questions. But that's probably the biggest thing that I can say is just realize that you're not alone in the situation. Yeah. Like, yes, every family is going to have its own little dynamic that makes them all different. Yeah. But the situations are very similar. So what works for me is not going to work for the next person all the time. Yeah. But what I've gone through could maybe give a little bit of light onto what can work for them. And vice versa. If I'm talking to somebody else, something that works for them, I realize, because there were people that I talked to that, the relationship with my ex-wife is strictly business. We don't talk about anything but A, B, and C. It's all got to deal with our child. Yeah. And if it's not that, then we don't talk at all or we can't be around each other. And I'm not saying that person's wrong. That's their situation. Yeah. I can't say what they should or shouldn't be doing. Yeah. But that's probably the biggest thing is just realize that there are other people to talk to. And there are people to bounce ideas off of. And, God created us to do life in community, and that's probably the biggest thing is just do life in community.
Awesome, man. Wasn't this so good, guys? Come on, let's give it up for Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris, so much for being here. Man, we again, if you didn't catch it, thank you for those joining us online. For people here in the audience, if you didn't get an opportunity, put your name on one of them tokens because we are giving away a pair of AirPods next week. Remember, next week we will have Pastors Wahai and Laura here from our San Diego location, assistant pastors. It's going to be awesome. We hope you have an amazing rest of your week. We'll see you next time here on The Mid. Take care. I don't know if they're going to change the